Algebra Kids. This is the second half of section 4.3. It's what I called 4.3.b. Section 4.3a was long division, and long division was really ugly and really complicated. You probably maybe struggled a little bit with section 4.3a, and if you did, that's okay. Synthetic division, so section 4.3b, is super easy. Well, for the most part, super easy. So there's still hope for you yet. Don't give up. Synthetic division is way easier than long division. There is a reason why they do long division, or they introduce long division before synthetic division, but I'll get to that here in just a minute. But don't give up. There's still hope for you with synthetic division. Okay, I'm going to go through this diagram over here that talks about how to do synthetic division. It looks complicated, but it's really fairly easy. They will give you a problem that starts out looking like this. So they'll say divide this big polynomial, and this one has 4 terms to it, and they say divide by x minus 5. Okay, great. So to do long division, like what we did yesterday, or whatever day it was, Friday, you would, put the bigger term in the box, and then you'd put like x minus 5 out here, okay? So I'm going to do a similar process, but for synthetic division, you're going to do your box in a different method. It's going to be a box that looks like this instead, like the boxes that I have down here, okay? And what you're going to do first is you're going to set x minus 5 equal to 0. And if you set x minus 5 equal to 0 and add 5 to both sides, x is equal to 5, okay? So you're going to want to put 5 on the outside of this box. You don't put negative 5. You put positive 5 on the outside of this box. So that's one of the things that you want to make sure you remember is you're going to use the opposite sign of what they give it to you in here. You're going to use 5 on the outside, okay? And then the numbers that you put here are going to be the coefficients that are in front of your values here. So x cubed, this is like 1x cubed. So you're going to put a 1 down here. Negative 2 is the next number. Negative 8 is the next number. And negative 35 is the next number, okay? So then from there, you've got this information, and what you do first is you drop this 1 down. If it feels like I'm going too fast, we're going to do an example down below here, so it's going to feel a little bit better, okay? Drop the 1 down. You don't do anything. Then you're going to take the 1 and you're going to multiply by 5. They have like a little times 5 right there, okay? And you put that number up here in the 5 spot, okay? Then you're going to add. You do exactly what it says. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. Then you're going to do what it says down here. Multiply by that 5 again. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15, and that goes up in this spot, okay? 15 goes here. Then you're going to add that to the negative 8. Okay, there's no flipping signs like we did for long division, nothing like that. The only time you flip a sign is when you go from x minus 5 to positive 5 here. That's the only sign flip that you do, okay? Negative 8 plus 15 is 7, and then you're going to take that and multiply by 5 again. So 5 times 7 is 35, and then you add, which gives you 0. So what I always take that 0 and I put it in a box, okay, or that last number and I put it in a box because that's your remainder, which means that you don't have a remainder. That means we don't have any funky business going on the end of this equation here, okay. So we were originally dividing x cubed blah 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 by an x minus 5, okay. So I look at this x cubed. And 1 degree lower than x cubed is x squared. So when I get my final answer here, these numbers 1, 3, and 7, that's going to be 1x squared plus 3x plus 7. Okay, I start with x squared down here because 1 degree lower than x cubed, what I was dividing, is x squared. Okay, so x squared, 3x, and 7. So this is my final answer, and that's all I have to do. Okay, all right, so let's do 2 examples down here, and then we'll quit. All right, synthetic division. Here we go. We're dividing by x minus 4. Okay, so I set x minus 4 equal to 0, and I add 4 to both sides, so x equals 4. That's going to be the number that I put outside here. 4 is going to go outside. Okay, a lot of you guys can do that in your head, but I just want to write it all out so that you can see. All right. All right, then I write out the coefficients. So the first number that I have here is 2. So I write 2 here inside the box. Then negative 13. It is absolutely super important that you put the negative on the end there, okay? And leave enough space in between the 2 and the negative 13 so they don't look like they're running together, all right? 26 is the next number that I have. Again, leave enough space. And negative 24 is the last number, all right? Very, very important that you put that negative on there, okay? All right, now I'm going to use a different color here. The very, very first step we do, like what they set up here, is I drop that first number down. So 2, I'm just going to drop him down. He just goes there, and I don't do any operation with him, all right? Then I take and I multiply that 2 by the 4. I always use this number. Multiply the 2 by the 4, and that's going to give you what you put in this spot. So 8 goes there. And then I add. Negative 13 plus 8 is negative 5, okay? And then I multiply by 4 again, okay? Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. And then I add that to 26. That gives me a positive 6. And then I multiply by 4 again. I should put my arrows here. 6 times 4 is 24, and I add that to negative 24, which gives me 0. And I put that 0 in a box, just like I did up here, okay? 0 goes in a box, all right? So the numbers that I have here are 2, negative 5, and 6, all right? What I was dividing was an x cubed, so 1 degree less than x cubed is x squared. So this 2 is going to be 2x squared. This 5 is going to be minus 5x, because I just go down from there, and this 6 is just a positive 6, and that's all I do. So if I would take this guy and divide by x minus 4, I would get 2x squared minus 5x plus 6, okay? And that's all. Example 6, the same thing, except this one's just a little bit trickier. We are dividing by 3x plus 1 instead. Okay, so this is kind of where it's important to remember to set that 3x plus 1 equal to 0. Okay, so 3x plus 1 equal to 0, if I were solving for x there, I would subtract the 1 first. So 3x would be equal to negative 1 there, all right? Then I would divide by 3, so x equals negative 1/3. And that's going to be the number that I'm going to put out in front here, negative 1/3, okay? All right, and then I put my coefficients out in front here just like this, okay? So 3 is my first number. 3 is going to go here. Negative 5 goes next, all right? X squared doesn't have a number in front of him, so I assume that it's 1. So I have 1x squared, and then I have a 7. Now, one more thing I'm going to add on to here. 7x was the last thing they give me. They don't give me just like a solid number like they did the minus 24 here. It was 26x minus 24. This one stops at 7x. So I'm going to write in plus 0, and I'm going to put a 0 on the end there. So I know that there's the x's stop at 7, but then I have an extra number off the end there. Okay, so if they don't put a number on there, make sure you plug a 0 in there. Okay. All right, first thing you do, drop that 3 down. Oh, my child has the hiccups and she hates that. Drop the 3 down. Negative 1/3 times 3. I'm going to multiply that by negative 1/3. Negative 1/3 times 3 is negative 1, okay? Then I add that to negative 5. Negative 5 times, or minus 1 is a negative 6. And then I multiply that by negative 1/3 again. Well, what's 1/3 of 6? That's 2. And since this was a negative 6 and a negative 1/3, 2 negatives make a positive, so it's a positive 2. All right? 1 and 2, that makes 3. When I add, and I multiply that by negative 1/3 again, so 3 times negative 1/3 is negative 1. You don't have to write in the times negative 1/3 every time if you don't want to, but I am. 7 and negative 1, when I add those two together, that makes 6. And 6 times negative 1/3 is, let's see, negative 2. And 0 minus 2 is a negative 2. And I'm going to put that last number in the box. Okay, last number goes into a box, all right? So my numbers here were 3, negative 6, 3, positive 6, and then I have that negative 2, all right? The number that I had here, what I was dividing by was an x to the 4th power. So 1 degree less than that is x to the 3rd power. So this 3 is going to be x to the 3rd power. This negative 6 is going to be x to the 2nd power. This 3, positive 3, is going to be x to the 1st power, or just x. And then plus 6 is my last number, okay? Now, my remainder is negative 2, so I'm going to do minus 2 over And what I was dividing by was 3x plus 1, so it's 3x plus 1 here. Minus 2 over 3x plus 1, because that's what my remainder was. So this one had a remainder, this one did not. Sometimes you will and sometimes you won't. All right, so that's what he looks like, okay? Now, you guys are all thinking, or some of you are thinking, that was way, way, way easier than what long division was. Why would we ever, ever, ever want to use long division if there's an easier way? Well, not all equations are able to do long division, or synthetic division, excuse me. Synthetic division only works when you're dividing with stuff that's like x to the first power. So this was like x to the first power minus 4, and 3x to the first power plus 1. That's the only time you can do synthetic division. You cannot do synthetic division when you're doing stuff like this. This equation divided by x squared, okay? That you can't do synthetic division with. It won't work. So that's why we have to learn the long division. Even though it's really ugly and not very much fun to do, that's the only option that we have when we're dealing with problems like this example. Okay, synthetic division will not work when dividing a quadratic polynomial. Won't do it. This is quadratic, so we can't do it then with synthetic. All right, and that is synthetic. If you need to rewind this video or pause and go back to catch one of my steps, please do, and help each other out as you're going through these. Write out all your work and write nicely. Some of you boys in class, make sure, even some of the girls, make sure that you're writing clearly and all your steps are written nicely, otherwise you're going to get lost. Okay?